Apex entrepreneurs, and welcome. So, on to our first indicator. We're going to look at the price to earnings ratio. And we can get the price to earnings ratio by using a simple formula, which is the current share price divided by the earnings per share. You can find the current stock price of a company on any financial website, and the earnings per share is the total earnings of a company divided by the total number of shares. So, for example, if a company generated $4 million in profits and has 2 million shares, the earnings per share is equal to $4 million over 2 million shares, which is equal to $2. Easy to follow so far. Next, let's take the example of Facebook. And unless you've been living under a rock your entire life, it's a company that we all know. The earnings per one Facebook share for the last 4 quarters were equal to $2.38 for quarter 1, 85 cents for quarter 2, 91 cents for quarter 3, and $2.12 for quarter 4. So, to get the annual earnings per one share of Facebook, we simply add all of these numbers together, meaning the annual earning per share is $6.26. And it's this $6.26 that tells us how much profit per share Facebook made last year. For the next part of our equation, we're going to need the share price of Facebook, which on the 6th of January 2020 was $212.60. And to get the price to earnings ratio, all we have to do is a simple division. The share price of $212.60 divided by the profit per share, $6.26, which gives us $33.96. Now we know what you're thinking. We've given you lots of numbers to think about, but what do these all actually mean? Well, what this basically means is that you have to invest $33.96 in order to yield $1 in company earnings. And as a rule of thumb, the higher the profit to earnings ratio is, the more money you have to invest to yield $1 of company earnings. And the more overvalued this stock is considered. And vice versa. The lower the profits to earnings ratio is, the more this stock is considered undervalued. One common mistake people can make is often comparing the profits to earnings ratio of companies from different sectors, like comparing the PE ratio of a company in the tech sector to a company in the oil and gas sector. Well, this is just wrong and insane, so please don't do this. It's best to try and compare companies in the same sector. So for example, if the average PE ratio in a certain sector is 30, and one particular company has a PE ratio of 50, then it's likely that this company is overvalued. On the other hand, if the company's PE ratio is a lot lower than the industry average, then this company is probably undervalued. So like we said, always compare the PE ratios of companies in the same sector. Now, the profits to earnings ratio is a good indicator, but it has some limitations. For example, if a company has no earnings at all or is losing money, then the PE ratio doesn't exist, since we can't actually put anything into the denominator. Moreover, a major limitation of the profits to earnings ratio is that it doesn't take into account the growth in earnings. Therefore, 2 companies can have the same PE ratio, but the earnings of the first one are growing quickly and the earnings of the second one are steady over time. Of course, buying stocks in the first company that's growing quickly is a much more interesting and attractive offer. However, if we just used the PE ratio, this wouldn't be enough to lead us to this conclusion. Again, the problem being that the PE ratio doesn't take into account the growth of earnings. That's why analyzing it alone is not enough. We need to analyze another indicator, which brings us nicely to the second indicator we'll be discussing in this video, the PEG ratio.